Well, we started off the week with a system that ran through the region, especially North Dakota and Minnesota, where anywhere from about 6 to 11 inches fell in some areas, especially across eastern North Dakota and northeast of Minnesota. And now we've got yet another system to talk about as we end the week. And unfortunately, the models are still pretty murky on the whole situation. And I'll kind of show you what we mean here as we start off going Saturday morning. What we're going to be expecting, and all the models are basically showing this, it's just a matter of timing and exact location on some of this, but we do have a warm front that's going to be, and I'll show you what I mean by taking a look at a few different models here to start off with. And we're starting off here at Saturday morning, and basically what we've got going is this warm front that's going to be gradually moving to the north. Now, out ahead of this warm front, we're going to be seeing a mix of perhaps some snow, perhaps some freezing rain or sleet, and then eventually turning over to rain as that warm front continues to move a little bit further north, and things will warm up as we go through the day and even into perhaps the evening hours Saturday evening. And here you can kind of see just a little bit how some of that mix moves to the north. This is about 6 p.m. on Saturday evening. You can see it's kind of along that Highway 2 corridor. And then once we get to midnight, the rest of it moves a little bit further north. And then on the back edge of it is on the back end of this system, once it starts to pull out of the Rockies, is when things really begin to ramp up. And then it's just a matter of where exactly some of the snow and also sleet and freezing rain and even rain develops across our region. Again, you can hear, look at this at Sunday morning at 6 a.m. According to this model, we've got just kind of a mix across parts of North and South Dakota with a good portion of the heavier snow across west and more so northwest and north central part of North Dakota, with kind of that mix running through the central part of the state. And then as we move through the remainder of the day on Sunday, this low continues to move off to the northeast. And of course, along with that carries that precipitation off to the north and east as well. And as you can see, the rain kind of follows out ahead of it. We've got the snow on the back edge. So really, again, most of the snow, according to this model, is kind of north central, northwest to perhaps kind of in the southwestern part of North Dakota. So generally in the western part of North Dakota. And then as we get a little bit later in the day, at least according to this model, this is the European model, watch how some of these storms fire up as we get late into the day Sunday, perhaps some severe storms, some damaging winds as it pushes into eastern parts of Minnesota and into Wisconsin, and perhaps even into northern parts of Minnesota. Very unusual for this time of year to get it that far north, so we'll see. And this is just one model run. The other models are a little bit different, as we'll take a look. So again, different model. We've got this warm front moving to the north. We've got that precipitation out ahead of it. This is around 9 a.m. on Saturday. Again, that mix of rain, freezing rain, perhaps sleet, maybe some snow actually to start off on the very north edge. And then eventually it kind of transitions over. Noon, this is 3 p.m. And then by the time we get to 6 p.m., it's a little bit further north than what the other model was showing. It's kind of showing a little more snow by this point as well. But ultimately, that warm front continues to move north. Areas to the south continue to warm into the evening. So really across our region, as we get into the evening hours Saturday evening, things will kind of continue to warm up. And then we wait for this system to pull out of the Rockies. And look at this, kind of the same area. We're looking northwest to sort of north central part of North Dakota. That's got the best chance of heavy snow falling in that region. But the other thing you'll notice, at least according to this model, is not as much rain, not as much freezing rain along with it. It just mainly has the snow lingering, or the snow, most of the moisture kind of on the northwestern side of the storm system. And as we go through the day on Sunday, that continues to move. This is at noon, 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. And you notice it doesn't really fire any storms along the cold front. There's no severe storms. Most of the precipitation, most of the activity remains to the north of the system. And taking a look at one more model, again, Saturday morning, a little bit of snow. This one hardly shows anything other than maybe a little bit of snow along that warm front. And then as this system pulls out going into Sunday morning, it really begins to crank up. We're going to have some strong southeasterly winds out ahead of it, and then some stronger northwesterly winds behind it. And again, look at kind of the position of the snow from southwest North Dakota up to north central part of North Dakota. So right now, the one thing that the models seem to agree on is that the main area, or the area that has the best potential for seeing snow for sure, is going to be northwest and north central part of North Dakota. The remaining areas are kind of up in the air. Here you can see a little more freezing rain with this than the last model, a little more rain, some sleet associated with it, for sure some heavier snow across north central part of North Dakota by the noon time frame. Again, timing just a little bit off from the other two models as things progress. Actually, we'll back it off here one click here, and we'll look at 6 p.m. Sunday evening. And according to this, northeastern part of North Dakota will get some heavy snow with some rain and perhaps some stronger thunderstorms out ahead of this cold front running through Wisconsin. So 3 different models, 3 fairly different solutions. It seems like the only thing they really agree on is that the main area of snow, like I said, is going to be north central to northwestern part of North Dakota. And unfortunately, what that might mean for the remainder of us is things are a little more up in the air. And I think especially when we're talking about south central to eastern parts of North Dakota, northern Minnesota, those are more the question marks. I think as you go more south and east, that's where more of the chance of rain is going to take place and not so much the threat of snow. And so it really is right now pretty difficult to pick exactly what model, and perhaps it's even going to be pieces of different models at different time. But we'll take a look kind of at the European model. I think it seems to be handling it maybe just a little better right now, at least just to give a timing down. And so here we are, a Saturday morning about 6 a.m. And then here we are at 9 a.m. You can see that rain and that mix of freezing rain kind of moving to the north by this point. And then as we get to noon time frame, it crosses into North Dakota. And then 3 p.m. kind of across the northern parts of Minnesota and across central parts of North Dakota as well, basically right in through this region. And then by 6 p.m. moves a little bit further north, again, kind of along that Highway 2 corridor. And by 9 p.m., kind of starts to straddle that Canadian border. Now, once this low pressure system begins to pull out Saturday night and into Sunday morning, we see that snow begin to ramp up, especially once we get to 6 a.m. across northwestern and into north central parts of North Dakota, perhaps some freezing rain across central parts of North Dakota. And then as you get a little bit further south, we kind of increase the chance of rain, perhaps some rain out ahead of it before this system moves through, before the colder air moves through on Sunday. This is 9 a.m. and then noon. Here we are, we got the rain across eastern parts of North Dakota. And we're looking at some decent south to southeasterly winds gusting probably 30-35 miles per hour at times. And then on the back side of this, with some of the snow, we'll probably got some decent winds of maybe some 30 miles per hour as well. But really, by noontime on Sunday, we're looking at some moderate to heavy snows across northwest, north central part of North Dakota. And then by 3 p.m., that cold air moves just a little bit further east. And then by 6 p.m., some snow perhaps across northeastern parts of North Dakota. I think some of this could be a little bit heavier. This is where I kind of want to adjust it a little bit according to this model, where I think we'll get a little more snow up into the northeastern part of North Dakota, perhaps a little more colder air wrapping in back around this, changing this over to the snow a little bit faster. And then we'll have to keep an eye on the potential for some strong to severe storms, mainly across eastern parts of Minnesota and then tracking into Wisconsin as we get to, we'll say, between the 4 to 7 p.m. time frame. Now, by 9 p.m., we're probably going to be left with some light snow across the far north. For sure, some stronger winds kind of out of the west-northwest, gusting probably 35 miles per hour, blowing and drifting some of that snow that fell, especially across the northwest and north central, and that'll linger through the night until we probably get a little bit later into the morning on Monday morning. And again, just something I like to do is show you a little bit of the comparisons of the models. This is the European model. You can see the north central and northwestern parts of the state where this was pointing to upwards of 7 inches or more. The Canadian model really extends some of that heavier snow up to the northeast. Most of it, north of the Highway 200 corridor, for sure north of I-94. but that one is really one of the stronger ones when it comes to the amount of snow across North Dakota. The American model, again, north central, kind of lingering in the northeast, a little bit into the northwest, but ultimately mainly north of US 2. And again, where we're looking at perhaps over 7 inches of snow in some areas. This newer model kind of painting a similar area to the European. The short range American model, fairly similar to the longer range model. So there you see all kinds of different runs, different scenarios. Right now, I think this is probably the most likely type of scenario where we're looking at over 6 to 7 inches across northwest and north central part of North Dakota. So there you can see a number of different models, a number of different solutions. It's still very murky. You know, it's looking like that northwest, north central part of North Dakota obviously is kind of the main area that's going to get hit. And then remaining areas, especially across North Dakota, there's still some questions out there. And of course, the problem always becomes is the freezing rain, freezing drizzle area. So while you might not get the snow, perhaps, you're still dealing with some slippery road conditions if that freezing precip occurs. So a few things to work out, and we'll keep up on it as the conditions change and as the models kind of figure things out and we get closer to Saturday and Sunday. We'll keep you abreast on the latest situation and what we're thinking there. So with that, unfortunately, we'll have to leave you, and wish I had more answers than that, but that's kind of what we're looking at for now. But like I said, we'll be sure to keep you up to date as things change. So make sure you keep an eye on my social media channels, and I'll have any type of information updates on there. And actually, the Weather Service has had some pretty good graphics that I've been sharing that's worth taking a look at as well, just to give you an idea from what they are thinking. So with that, for Region Weather Live, I'm meteorologist Brad Werner. Everybody have a good day.